guys, welcome to Captain Dorja's Armory. This is Captain Dorja, and today I want to look at the Tier 5 carrier, the Zuiho, for the Imperial Japanese Navy. That's what we got right here. This is the Japanese carrier at Tier 5. And I want to talk a little bit about this carrier in particular, just how powerful it is. I want to talk a little bit in general about some of the differences between the American and Japanese carriers. I want to talk about specifically the Zuiho versus the Bogue, the American Tier 5 carrier. And I also wanted to let you guys know that I am going to stream tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. Greenwich Time. That's tomorrow, Monday, August 31st, 6 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Greenwich. That's at Twitch TV/Captain Dorja, and link in the description. So anybody, if you see this, I hope you come out to the stream. I had a really, really good time streaming on Friday, and I hope you guys will come hang out and have a good time. So anyway, onto the carrier here. This is the Zuiho, like I said. It's the Tier 5 Japanese carrier, and I had my best carrier match ever in terms of damage in this thing a couple of days ago, and that's the replay that I want to look at. But before we do that, I want to look at some other things. First of all, the modules on this carrier are really important, and I have this carrier fully upgraded, so that's nice. But the Zuiho at Tier 5 differs from the Hosho at Tier 4, the first carrier in the Japanese Navy, because the Hosho only gets one loadout. It can go with one fighter squadron and 2 torpedo bomber squadrons, and that's it. It's got 30 planes total. The Zuiho still only has 30 planes total, but it can carry 2 different loadouts. You can take a loadout of 1 fighter, 2 torpedo bombers, and a dive bomber, which is what I usually refer to it as a 1-2-1, with the fighters coming first, the torpedo bombers coming second, and the bombers coming last. So if I were to tell you that this carrier has a 1-2-1 loadout, that would mean 1 fighter, 2 torpedo bombers, 1 bomber. But you can upgrade the Zuiho to a 0-3-1 loadout. No fighters, 3 bombers, 3 torpedo bombers rather, and 1 dive bomber. And that is really the best way to go on the Zuiho. And we will discuss why right now. The reason why it's so good to do the 0-3-1 loadout versus the 1-2-1 loadout is that this carrier has unbelievable striking power at its tier when you put the 0-3-1 loadout on it. And when you encounter an enemy carrier, it doesn't really matter whether you have any fighters or not. And the reason why it doesn't really matter is because no matter what configuration the Bogue is in, the Bogue's fighters are going to be pretty strong. We'll jump over to the Bogue real quick in the tech tree just to demonstrate the loadouts that it can carry. So here we go. Once my game actually decides to load, there we go. So the Bogue at Tier 4 or Tier 5 in the US line, it carries 24 aircraft. Its starter configuration is a 1-1-0, so 1 fighter, 1 torpedo bomber, and 0 dive bombers. You can upgrade to a full strike package of 0-1-2, but that's really bad because it doesn't really do any more damage than the stock loadout, and you don't have any fighters. And fighters are really the Bogue's strong point. Now you can also upgrade to a 2-0-1 configuration or a fighter loadout with 2 squadrons of fighters, no torpedo bombers, and only 1 bomber squadron. Now on the Bogue I would actually recommend the 2-0-1 loadout because the Bogue's strong point is its fighters. You can't get enough torpedo bombers to really be effective on it. The dive bombers on it suck, but the fighters are really good. And so you can really do a lot of good work with the fighters. But the reason why you can do a lot of good work with the fighters is because of the way the Zuiho operates. If you're playing the Bogue, your primary mission should be to carry 2 fighter squadrons and use it to go after Zuihos. And if you're in a Zuiho, well, a good player in a Bogue can really give you a hard time But if you're a good player in the Zuiho, you can either avoid him or you can just alpha strike him right at the beginning of the match and then carry on. But the reason why it's not worth bringing any fighters in your Zuiho to oppose the enemy Bogue is simple. In every configuration that the Bogue gets where it has fighters, its fighters will always defeat yours no matter what you do. You can max out your captain skills, whatever. The Bogue's fighters are always going to win. Even when it only has one squadron, its one squadron will always beat yours. So there's really, your one squadron's not enough to defend you against the Bogue's fighters, so you might as well just not take them and have more attack power. The more attack power will help you avoid the Bogue's fighters by giving you the ability to send your airplanes to more places, because really his fighters at most can be in 2 places at a time. If you have 3 torpedo bomber squadrons, worst case scenario, one of them still gets through. The other reason why it's not worth it to take the fighters is that with the 3 torpedo bomber loadout, if you do decide to just immediately rush the enemy carrier right at the beginning of the match, you've got a lot more striking power to kill him. And if you're going to carrier rush right at the beginning, you need to kill the carrier. If you carrier rush and fail, that's like one of the worst things you can do as a carrier player. You just waste a bunch of time, you probably waste a lot of planes, and you accomplish nothing. So that's why I would say it's always preferable to take the 0-3-1 loadout on the Zuiho, even though the Bogue can really give you a hard time. Now I will say that when I played the Bogue, I played it in fighter loadout, and if I ran into a Zuiho player who was bad, I would kill every single one of his airplanes routinely. If he was like average, I would kill a lot of his planes and prevent him from doing that much damage. But if the Zuiho player was a good player, the best I could hope to do was limit him to a half-decent game. So, this thing's really, really good. In fact, it's so good, they're nerfing it. I think they're going to make it so that it always has to take a 1-2-1 loadout. Whew. So, now that we have that, pretty much the inter-tier comparison, like the Bogue versus Zuiho comparison done, I want to talk real quick about the ship's attributes and how that influences playstyle. Now, the first thing is that, and this is a thing that I'm really not up to par on, I'm working on this myself, and I think I even, let's see here, come on now, camouflage. Nope, alright, I have the right camo. Now, the Zuiho is pretty stealthy. It's got a surface detection range of 8.5 kilometers and an air detection range of 8 kilometers. And that's kind of one of the things about the Japanese carriers. They're really fast, and they have comparatively better stealth ability than the American carriers. So on these Japanese carriers, it is worth it to put the Type 1 camouflage on to reduce your detectability by 3%. Now, 3% of 8.5 isn't that much, but since I'm a nerd, let's just see how much you actually get. Okay, so it knocks off about 0.3 of a kilometer. So just putting this camouflage on lowers your surface detection range to about 8.3, which is pretty decent. And then with commander skills, I mean, you're probably not going to have this commander skill on the boat, on the Zuiho, unless you keep the ship and use it as like a pimp ship, which plenty of people do. But if you had camouflage or concealment expert on the ship, your detection range is going to go down a lot, and you can be really sneaky in it. Now, I don't have that. What I have is I have a basic fire training to make my AA a little stronger. I have torpedo armament expertise to reload my torpedo planes quicker, and I have dogfighting expert, which I have dogfighting expert. That might not seem like the best idea, but the reason why I have it is when I do have to use the fighters, the Japanese fighters, in the mid and high tiers, the Japanese fighters are slower than the American fighters, so dogfighting expert makes them more powerful. Dogfighting expert only works if your planes are slower than the enemies. So on American carriers, it doesn't make sense to use it at high tiers, and on Japanese carriers, it really doesn't make sense to use it on low tiers. But I mean, I don't really want high alert and vigilance, and superintendent's not going to help me any. So I figured I might as well take dogfighting expert, even though it's not going to do very much. For equipment on this ship, I went with Air Group Modification 1 to increase the effectiveness of my aircraft's guns. Again, that's not really going to do that much, and you could make a case that AA Modification 1 might be a better idea, but I don't think it's a very strong case. Honestly, I don't think either one of these options is very good, and personally, since I'm a carrier, I'd rather have my carrier guns work better. For option number 2, though, for the second slot, I went with Flight Control Modification 1, which reduces the servicing time of aircraft by 10%. And I did that because Air Group Modification 2, increasing my fighter survivability, I'm not going to take fighters on this carrier unless it's stock. So I don't need this. Now, I don't really need this either, but there's nothing really definitively better to replace it with, whereas Flight Control Module 1 to increase the speed that you can relaunch your planes, that is definitely better. So I went with that. And for my third option, I went with the damage control to reduce the chance of fire and flooding, because fire sucks when you're in a carrier. So that's how I've got my carrier equipped. Now, those equipment choices mean that my carrier, which is fast, able to go 28.4 knots, means that my carrier can follow my fleet, because my carrier is as fast as my fleet, so I can follow my fleet for mutual defense. But because my carrier is stealthy, I can actually stay really, really close behind them, and what that does is it decreases the flight time of my aircraft so that I can launch more strikes quicker. And that's really where the Zuiho shines, and that's the thing that I need to work on better, is I need to work on following my fleet more closely. I'm still playing like I'm playing I'm still playing like I'm playing a Saipan on closed beta. I'm following my fleet, but I'm pretty far back behind it, like decreasing my plane flight range, but not really, enough. I need to basically play this thing more aggressive. I need to get closer to the front with this carrier, and I am working on it. And the reason why that can be so important is because of the way the Japanese torpedo bombers work. There's only 4 of them, for one thing, so they only drop 4 torpedoes apiece. So it's hard for you to get a lot of hits with a single drop. Honestly, if I drop on a battleship, I consider it a good drop if I scored 2 hits. Especially the American battleships, because they tend to be sort of stubby, so it's hard to get lots of hits on them. Now with an American carrier, like with my Independence, which, by the way, I don't really enjoy, with my Independence, with its 6 bomber squadrons, if I score 4 torpedo hits, I consider that a good hit, and a really good hit, I'll score 5. But I'm really out of practice with American torpedo bombers, so usually I'm only pulling in about 3. But that's, just the nature of the beast. The Americans drop 6 torpedoes in a really tight spread. The Japanese drop 4 torpedoes in a wider spread. But because of that, you don't score as many individual hits per squadron, so you need to make your squadrons hit more times, which is why the ability to service the aircraft and get them back in the air really fast, is so crucial. And, crazy hiccups. And that's why being right behind your fleet is such a big deal, because then your planes spend the minimum amount of time flying back and forth to the carrier, and they launch many, 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 many strikes. Now, the last real quick difference with this carrier and American carriers that I'll mention is the usage of your torpedo bombers. It can be a good idea to group your torpedo bombers up into one big blob and bomb all together. And you'll see me doing that in the match that we're going to look at. That's how you would, that's how you do it with American carriers. You group your torpedo bombers up into a big blob and you drop them together. And it's because they get that tight spread of a lot of torpedoes. Unfortunately now, American carriers don't get 2 torpedo bomber squadrons until you get to tier 9. But with 2 American torpedo bomber squadrons, if you get a good drop, you can score 8 to 10 torpedo hits and wipe out a target in 1 drop. So that's kind of the goal with American torpedo bombers, is to just deliver like a knockout punch. You're throwing a haymaker. You know, you got to think of it like that. You're throwing a haymaker. With the Japanese carriers, you can still deliver a knockout punch, but with your ability to spam your squadrons, you can also do a really, really annoying method of attack. And this is another thing I've just been working on. I picked this up from iChase Gaming, aka Chase. I've picked this up from Chase. Links to his YouTube and Twitch channel in the description. Chase calls it, quote, status affecting the enemy, where what you try to do, and this is kind of an age-old trick, you hit them with your dive bombers first and set them on fire. You wait for them to put the fire out, and then you fly in with torpedo bombers, and you torpedo them as hard as you can. And since you know that they put the fire out, that means they've used their damage repair ability, so your torpedoes get to flood for the maximum amount of time possible. That's kind of an old trick. But with the Japanese carriers, you can do it even more effectively, because you can fly in with 1 torpedo squadron and torp the guy and cause flooding. And then, 30 seconds later, after he's repaired his flooding, you fly in with another torp squadron, hit him again, boom, you did 2 more torpedo hits. That's like 15,000, 20,000 more damage, and he's flooding again, and this time he can't repair it. A minute later, he's only got a few seconds left on the flooding. You fly in with a 3rd squadron, boom, 15, 20,000 more damage, and another 90 seconds of flooding. Like, it's really, really powerful, and you'll definitely see me doing that in the match to come. Now, guys, we've been in the port for a long time. Not as long as last time, though. But we've been in the port for a long time, so it's time to get into battle. Let's check out this just epic Zuiho match. Alright guys, so we're loading into battle in the Zuiho. We are on the fault line map. It is a standard battle, and I will make 2 disclaimers. First of all, disclaimer number 1, this is amazingly favorable matchmaking for me. I'm an unopposed carrier. That will never happen again as soon as patch 4.1 is dropped. So right now you can get unopposed carriers, you can get crazy mismatches in tiering, but when the patch comes out, that will be a thing of the past. So I'm an unopposed carrier. That's thing number 1. Disclaimer number 2 is that this is extremely favorable matchmaking. There's only 1 enemy cruiser with real AA power, and it's the enemy Cleveland. He's the only real anti-aircraft cruiser. The 3 Omahas on the enemy team have okay anti-aircraft, but the biggest threat they have is their catapult fighter, because it will make my planes panic drop. The Omaha's regular AA won't make me panic drop, but their catapult fighters will. Same thing with the Furitaka. After the Cleveland, the only real AA threats on the enemy team are their 2 New Mexico class battleships. The New Mexico actually has pretty decent anti-aircraft firepower, so that's something to worry about. But it's not really that bad as long as I just get my planes in and get them out, and I don't linger in their AA envelope. So I'm sending my planes down the west side of the map, because that's usually where the enemy battleships go, and I want to work over these battleships as much as possible. But we spot this Minakaze, and I decide that I want him to die. So I tell my dive bombers to attack him. I'm not good at manual bombing, but I tried there and I missed. And I start trying to set up torpedo attacks on this guy. Now, I'm honestly not sure what happened to one of my torpedo attacks. I think I accidentally used one of them, but we're anticipating this Minakaze's maneuver, and I managed to lead a drop on him really, really good, and he steers right into a torpedo. And with that, And with that, we get the Minakaze and secure the first blood, but also protect myself against this enemy destroyer who was in a position to cause problems. Now, what I'm doing with my carrier is I've got one torpedo bomber squadron left, and this Furitaka's right here, so I'm going to go for him. And you can see the panic drop caused by the catapult fighter makes my spread really, really, really wide. But we still managed to hit a torpedo and do 8,000 damage to that Furitaka. Now, I want to look at my ship real quick. Okay. Now, ignore the autopilot line. When you go into free camera with a carrier in this view, when you click on the map, it gives you an autopilot order. That is not where I'm actually going. I'm actually purposefully steering into this island because I want to use it to hide myself. Now, I'm going to pause real quick right here. Oh god, that stupid alarm buzzer is going to be really annoying. But I can live with it, so can you guys. What I'm pausing here for is to talk about why I'm hiding behind an island, because one of the biggest noob things you see a lot of carrier drivers doing is they park behind islands and think it's a good idea. What makes it different right here is the choice of island. Most of the time you see carriers park behind this island, right about here, right about where this Mutsuki is. Or over here, behind this island. Both of those choices are bad choices. First of all, there's usually no friendly ships there, so you're totally defenseless against a surface or air attack, except for whatever defense you can mount with your own planes. Secondly, you're really far from the action. If you're behind this island, you're probably going to be dropping on targets that are in here somewhere, or in here. That's a fairly long flight. Even worse is if you're behind this island, and you're dropping on targets over here, or God forbid, over here. You've basically given yourself the maximum amount of flight time for your aircraft possible, which means the amount of strikes they can launch is minimized, so you're curbing your own potential damage in order to keep yourself safe. And to top it off, you're not actually keeping yourself safe, you're making yourself vulnerable by being alone. There's a reason why in World War II, aircraft carriers always sailed around with a bunch of escorts, and it's because they were vulnerable alone. And in World of Warships, that's still true. So I'm parking behind this island to keep myself safe. But this island is okay because I'm going to be dropping on enemies that are in here. That's only about 13, 14 kilometers. That's a pretty short flight for my aircraft, which have a cruising speed. Hopefully it'll show. It will not. Anyway, they have a cruising speed of around 100 kilometers per hour, which means they can cover 13 kilometers really, really fast. If I was back where this Mutsuki is, my planes would have to go about 20 kilometers. And since I've got friendly ships between me and the enemy, and behind me between me and the other enemies, I'm actually pretty well protected. This island, too, might have even been a better choice. It's even closer to the enemy, but it's still protected. Now, I'm going to resume because I've explained myself, and that alarm is really annoying. And I think it'll stop when I actually run my carrier aground. The reason why I run my carrier aground right here is if I run it aground, I know that it won't move accidentally because it's run aground. So, I actually do it on purpose. Alright, I do pause the recording and start again. My brother's in the Navy. He's getting some training in Virginia Beach, and so he's down near me, which is pretty unusual. So he's been texting me a little bit, and I got distracted and lost track of my commentary. Alright, so back to the point. I'm parked up behind this island where I'm nice and safe. I'm going to go into free camera mode again. No, I'm not. I'm going to continue in carrier camera mode so that we see exactly what I was thinking. Now, what I'm thinking right here is I'm surveying these enemy battleships, because there's 3 of them, and they're a big cluster, and I want to attacketh them. So here I am, safe and sound, nice and aground behind that island, getting my planes sent out. And you can see I'm coming in with my bombers first to try and start a fire. I'm going for the New Mexico, and behind my bombers, I've got... what the crap was that? I've got a torpedo squadron to come in and take advantage of the dive bomber attack. Hopefully the dive bombers will set them on fire. I don't think that was a manual drop. I think that was a replayed derp. So the New Mexico's actually taken a pretty good toll on my airplanes. I send in a torpedo strike, and he kills 2 of my planes flat out. But I do manage to get 2 torpedo hits into him, and also break his engines. Now the New Mexico's maneuvering to keep me in his AA envelope longer, so I actually take 2 more losses from my planes, and the Zuiho gets a small air group, so you really can't afford to take a lot of losses. But I get my torpedoes away and I score a hit. It looks like that enemy Furitaka's still alive, so that's not cool, because he... oh, actually, he's running away, never mind. So, I'm pretty safe tucked in behind my island here. I've actually backed up and am now going ahead to get myself closer to the action. But I have my 3rd Bomber Squadron coming in. Again, we're going for this New Mexico because I know he's damaged and he's used his damage control ability. But again, he takes out 2 of my planes. I've lost 7. He took out another one. I've lost 7 torpedo bombers going after that New Mexico. The Zuiho really can't bear to lose many planes because its air group just isn't large enough. Now I do see those enemy ships pressing into our cap, but I also see that we've got a battleship and a destroyer there to fight them, and another destroyer heading that way. And over against the enemy main force of battleships, right now we're really just engaging them with 3 light cruisers, so I want to lend my firepower to these cruisers as much as possible. That New Mexico, I've put a beating on him. I've hit him with 4 torpedoes, and he's really shrugging off the damage pretty well. I've got my dive bombers and 2 torpedo bomber squadrons back up, and we're going in again. Again, I'm trying to bomb this New Mexico, trying to set him on fire, but my dive bombers really aren't very good, and I'm a terrible manual dive bomber, so I usually auto-bomb. But we score a hit, we do set him on fire, so that's good. Now, coming in with the... oh, go ram it. I hate this stupid... this camera mode's not very good for the carriers. Now anyway, I come in with my torpedo bombers, and I had a good lineup on the New York there, so I just go for it. I actually miss, and to top it off, I've lost another 4 torpedo bombers, 5 more torpedo bombers. But again, the New Mexico is aground, so he's a great target. Put another torpedo into him, and now we've caused flooding, and he's going to start taking flooding damage. So we have both the enemy New Mexicos and a New York right here. That's a pretty tough bunch. Now the maneuvering that New Mexico did to try and evade me has actually caused him to traffic jam his other New Mexico buddy. So that's just kind of more sort of havoc that you can wreak without actually doing any damage. Unfortunately, the Omaha torpedoes run just short of range and aren't able to hit that New Mexico. But I'm preparing another torpedo strike on him. Here comes my 3rd squadron coming in, and I'm also setting my dive bombers up to attack that New Mexico again. Now the combined AA firepower of 2 New Mexicos is strong, and my torpedo squadron loses another 2 planes. But we put 2 more torpedoes into that New Mexico and continue to flood him. Now, I've lost so many planes that my number 2 squadron can't launch a full complement. So they only get 2 bombers. Wow, I'm really stuttering a lot right now, and I'm not sure why. But dive bombers are going in again, and there's the terrible auto-attacking and my inability to manual bomb. So again, my dive bombers do no damage. But we are flooding that New Mexico. Got another torpedo squadron coming in, And since I have a good lineup on this New Mexico, and since I don't want to linger in his AA envelope, I drop like basically I rush drop on that guy to minimize the time that I'm in AA. I did do a manual drop, but I dropped it from pretty far away, and he evaded it. So he only took one torpedo. I'm trying to set up another drop on him. I'm not doing a very good job. I've lost another plane. This squadron's down to just one. The New Mexico actually kills it completely. But I do get one torpedo away. And as that torpedo goes out, it actually hits him in the ammo rack and kills him. And the first New Mexico floods to death. So we get extremely lucky there. The first New Mexico floods to death. The second New Mexico gets taken out by one torpedo hit to his magazine, giving us the devastating strike and the double strike. So that's awesome. Now, my number 4 squadron is going in at this enemy New York. Again, I've lost so many planes, this group can only field 2 planes. So I get 2 torpedoes away, managed to hit with one of them, putting out another 5,600 damage to that New Mexico, or that that New York. Unfortunately, we didn't cause any flooding. Now here, ouch, I just stubbed my toe. Now here, I've backed up off the island. I actually backed off way too far. I was fixating on my planes, not managing my carrier properly. I need to get myself down. I really should be on the map. I really should be down here somewhere with this island between me and the enemy, out of spotting range, but very close for my airplanes to get there. These American battleships are too slow to chase me. I could be doing it, but I'm not. But I've got my carrier set to close the distance, and I'm coming in for an attack with my number 3 squadron. Again, so low on planes, it's only fielding 3 aircraft. We drop on the enemy New York, score 2 hits, leaving him on very low health, and we have caused flooding. And since our dive bombers caused a fire before, this guy should start to flood to death. But he's actually using his repair ability to reg in health. So that is disappointing. But my number 4 squadron and my number 5 squadron are both back up, ready to launch. But I'm starting to really get down, scraping the barrel here for any planes left. And this match is close. My team needs the help. So I'm trying to just launch everything that I can, get what I've got in the sky, and keep it up there. Number 4 squadron's coming in, 2 torpedo bombers remaining. And my number 5 squadron, the dive bombers, again with only 2 planes remaining, heading in for an attack. This time we're going after the Wyoming, because A, he's closer, B, I want to start getting some status effects on this guy, soften him up some for my teammates. So we fired 2 torpedoes at him, scored 2 hits because he turned right into him, and because the Wyoming's got comparatively weak AA, didn't lose any planes. But I did manage to pull down the Confederate medal. Confederate medal is a pretty hard medal to get in World of Warships, so every time you get a Confederate, that's nice. Now I dropped my dive bombers, again auto-dropping on the Wyoming, no damage done, but he did shoot one down, so I'm down to just 1 dive bomber. Well, I've got my number 3 squadron in the air with 3 aircraft. Sarcastically commenting in chat, this ship is balanced. The Wyoming takes a massive hit, looks like from one of our battleships. Probably the New Mexico. Now, with my number 3 squadron, since it's got more planes in it, I am actually going to send them at the New York, because I think I have a good chance of killing the New York. I can see the Wyoming losing health fast to our New Mexico. I think it'll help our battleship more if I can kill one of the enemy battleships than if I just soften the other one up. Also, the Wyoming doesn't have very strong AA, so I'm really not that worried about flying through the AA envelope of a Wyoming. I doubt he'll take out any of my planes. So I come in for the drop on the enemy New York with 3 aircraft. The drop looks good. He's going to eat 2 torpedoes. And that's it. New York can't handle 2 torpedo hits. So he's dead. But we're not done yet. We still have number 4 and number 5 squadron coming in for an attack. I've only got 4 strike aircraft remaining. But this team is really starting to take a pounding. This enemy team really starting to take a pounding. They're down to just 1 for Ataka and this Wyoming, who's on very low health. So I think even with the low complement of aircraft that I have, I'll be able to have a decisive impact. Making them... Right, setting up my attack run. The Wyoming manages to kill one of my torpedo bombers. I'm down to just 2 left. He shoots the last one down, but I get the torpedo away. It hits, and we kill the Wyoming, taking out the 4th enemy battleship. Now, I did write in chat, got your last BB with my last TB, but that's not true. I still have 1 more left. Now, unfortunately for me, the Furataka is really far away, and he's about to come under fire by 2 powerful battleships. So, I think it's pretty unlikely that I'll get in a hit with this torpedo bomber, but I sure am going to give it my best shot. Now, I ordered my carrier to drive into the enemy cap. There is barely enough time to solo cap. Maybe if I get there, I can solo cap it. You know, just in case for some reason, just in case, say, this Furataka gets lucky and kills both of these battleships. Now, I have only 2 airplanes left, so I literally cannot afford to lose anything. So I see the scout plane, the scout fighter, coming after my dive bomber, and I take my dive bomber and I hightail it the other direction. I do not want my dive bomber to get taken out by this enemy scout fighter. But at this point I decide, screw it, send him in. Sending my dive bomber in. He valiantly makes his attack run. And misses. And he is running away. But the enemy scout fighter's caught him, so he's probably dead. Oh, but the scout fighter turns back. The plucky dive bomber manages to escape with its life. And that Furataka's coming under heavy fire by our 2 battleships. He's not long for this world. And with that shot, he's taken out, and we win the battle. Now, post-battle results. That was an epic, epic match. And again, disclaimer, like I said, it would have been damn near impossible to get more favorable matchmaking. Unopposed by, no other carriers, and really only 1 ship with real AA and 2 ships with decent AA. But even still, even with that little amount of opposition, I lost every single plane except 2. So the Zuiho, one of the weaknesses of it is it doesn't really have very many airplanes. You can't afford to lose your planes in this thing. Like, if you launch a full strike of all 16 airplanes and you lose all 16 airplanes, that's more than half your air wing. So that's bad. But anyway, these battle results are not bad. 19 torpedo hits, only managed 3 bomb hits, because I don't manual dive bomb very often because I'm terrible at it, and the auto dive bombing is pretty crap. So only 3 bomb hits, only 2 incapacitations. We managed 5 kills, 3 fires, and 8 floods. This was ×2 experience for the first win of the day, so 8,350 experience, 418 free experience, 448,350 credits, in addition to double strike, 2 devastating strikes, Confederate, high caliber, and first blood. So that was awesome. Breaking it down by experience earned, not surprising that I got the most experience on my team with 2,783 on modified experience. That is quite a lot. Our New Mexico also had a really good game. 2,000 base experience is pretty good. And unsurprisingly, the enemy had a pretty crappy game, but look at these 2 New Mexicos. Together, these 2 New Mexicos shot down 21 aircraft. And I think every single one of those planes they shot down was one of mine. So, I lost 28 aircraft, and I lost 21 of them to the two New Mexicos. So the New Mexico's AA is a threat to your Tier 5 carriers. I don't think the Ryujo would have suffered quite as bad because its planes are tougher and faster. But the New Mexico and the Colorado, their AA is not amazing, but don't underestimate it. It's pretty deadly. Damage done. Right. We managed, with our 3 bomb hits, we set 3 fires, and those fires burned for 10,308 damage. With our 8 floods, we managed to do 19,964 flooding damage. Our 3 bombs only did 4,129 damage, but our 19 torpedo hits pulled in 153,199 damage. That is a lot. In addition to that, the entire enemy battleship force was killed by me. Now, granted, one of those New Mexicos I had to throw all of my strike power at many, many times before he went down. But the other one, boom, lucky magazine hit. So, yet another example of how RNGesus giveth and taketh away. In this case, RNGesus giveth. So, profits. With a premium account and with the current special on the North American server, I managed a 2 times experience win for the first win of the day, 8,349 experience. It's 2 times experience because the Penny Arcade Expo, PAX, is going on right now. PAX is a big deal in the US, and so PAX Prime is going on right now. Because of that, we have some contests and some giveaways and double XP, which is nice. And also managed to pull in an epic 440,000 profit. The Zuiho is another one of those ships where if you don't have the money in your bank account to get a premium ship, that's fine. Just play the Zuiho. Now, in patch 4.1, it is going to lose some of its strike power. It's not going to be quite as ridiculous, but it should still be quite a threat. So I think it's safe to say that the Zuiho post-patch will still be dominant. Now, I want to look at one thing real quick before we end this. I'm going to have to open my World of Warships client back up real quick. These medals are quite a lot different than in World of Tanks. So I just want to open the client real fast and take a look at what these medals actually, what you have to do to get them and what they give you, because you get some pretty good rewards from a couple of these. So let's take a look at that. Alright, so back in the client, real quick, just looking at these awards. In that mission, we got a double strike, 2 devastating strikes, Confederate, high caliber, and first blood. So devastating strike, I've only gotten this 5 times, or double strike, I've only gotten 5 times. It's relatively hard to get. To get a double strike, you need to destroy 2 enemy ships, the second target being destroyed within 10 seconds of the first. So that's fairly hard. And I got that when I hit that New Mexico with the torpedo in the magazine, killing him immediately, and then the other New Mexico flooded to death less than 10 seconds later. So that's a pretty hard reward to get. And for this medal, you get some flags, and I can't remember which ones you get. Well, we'll take a look in the exterior section at that in a minute. Also got Devastating Strike. Devastating Strike is pretty easy to get. Destroy an enemy ship with a single artillery salvo, torpedo salvo, or aircraft attack by causing over 50% of the destroyed ship's normal HP. So basically, kill a guy from 50% or more with one shot. It's going to be a full salvo of whatever you use, though. So if you've got a battleship with 3 turrets and you only fire 2 of them, it's not a devastating strike. If you've got a destroyer with 2 torpedo launchers, each with 3 torpedoes, if you only shoot one of those 3 tubes, not a devastating strike. So that's a pretty easy one to get. We got that right at the beginning when I dropped the torpedoes on the Minikaze, because I launched a full attack by 4 aircraft and killed the Minikaze from full health to 0. Devastating Strike's really easy to get. You don't get any medals for it or anything. First Blood, the first in the match to destroy an enemy. Again, that was from the Minikaze, and you get a flag for that, and it's a pretty good flag. It's the Zulu flag. We'll check that out in a second as well. You also get, I also managed to get the High Caliber medal, which is again a fairly hard one to get. I've gotten it 21 times. High Caliber, to earn it, you have to damage at least 4 enemy ships. Damage must exceed 30% of the total HP of all the ships in the enemy team. So you have to do more than 30% of the total damage of the entire enemy team, and it's got to be spread across 4 different ships. So that's a fairly hard one to get. Then I also managed to get Confederate. This one's also pretty difficult to get, but it's a really good one. I've gotten 17 of these. To get Confederate, you have to damage at least 6 enemy ships, and the damage must exceed 20% of that ship's health. So that one's relatively hard as well. So those are the medals we got. And from those medals, I got a Zulu flag, which is really good. You only get Zulu flags one at a time. Zulu flags give you plus 20% to the credits earned in battle. You only get one. You can only get one Zulu flag per day. So First Blood, love getting a First Blood every day because I get a Zulu flag, and I can put those Zulu flags on my strong Soviet boat and make epic money hand over fist with this thing. Also, with the Confederate medal, I got 10 equal speed Charlie London flags. These are really good. If you fly the equal speed Charlie London flag, you get 50% extra experience in battle. I'm using that right now on the Colorado to get the North Carolina as fast as possible. Let's see, what else did we do? Didn't do that, didn't do that, didn't do that, didn't do that, didn't do that. Ha! Double strike. There we go. I've only gotten double strike a couple of times, and with double strike, you get 10 Sierra Mike flags. Sierra Mike adds 5% to your ship's maximum speed. So those are the medals and flags we got, which is pretty freaking awesome. Yeah, that Zuiho match was ridiculous. In that battle, that's the highest damage I've ever done. Closed beta, open beta, like whatever. That's the most damage I've done. And that was 187,600 damage. That's more damage than I ever managed to do with the Tier 9 Baltimore class cruiser in the closed beta. Yeah, so that's a pretty good reward. Now, I do have a pretty awesome replay of the Colorado in a match where God smiled upon me and my shells were just ruining people. So I'll probably show that next. It's a pretty good example of just how when a battleship captain aims well and the shots fly true, that battleship is a force to be reckoned with. But anyway, guys, this has been a really good match and a pretty long video. And I think I'm going to go to a shooting range with my brother today. So I think it's time to end this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I hope you'll come to my stream tomorrow at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. Greenwich Time, Twitch TV/Captain Dorja. If not, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. It means a lot to me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And until next time, just remember, you can never have enough big guns.